probably the greatest thing that I got from coaching wasn't the wins on the scoreboard. It was the wins in the hearts of the young men. And that to me was the greatest victory. Joe Lucan's one of them, on the scoreboard, not the scoreboard, but in the hearts. The success he is in life and how he spreads it with others. I got so many letters at home from kids. I kept them all. And there's so many of them. I couldn't find the one letter that I wanted to relate to, so I know it by heart anyhow. A kid named Pete Brenner was our first captain in our 1963 team. He was St. Peter, Paul, and Reading. And he stood about 5'9", was a starting center, weighed about 195, and was tougher than nails. And Pete Brenner was in Vietnam. And I was tough on Pete, even though he was the captain. In fact, one time, he had nicotine marks on his fingers. And I pulled him over. I said, "What those things doing on your fingers for, Pete?" He says, "Oh, I have to light the cigarettes for my mom." I said, "Fine." I said, have her light her own from now on. I don't want to see those signs anymore. And I knew he was beefing me. So I just ran him more in practice to keep him in shape, you know. But I got a letter from Pete in Vietnam. And it read as such: "Coach, I was in a foxhole, and the Viet Congs were coming after us." He says, "Coach, I was scared to death." He says, "I was going to tell my group of men," he was in charge of a group of men, and he says, "I was going to tell them to retreat fast as they could." And he says, "Then I thought for a second, they called me Fuzz, because my dad's name was Fuzzy, so behind my back they call me Fuzz." All right? So anyhow, he says, "What would Fuzz do if I ran? He'd kick my rear end and get on my back." He says, "So we stayed. We won. We beat the Viet Congs. We all lived. And if it wasn't for my high school football training, I wouldn't be writing this letter this day." I had tears when I read that letter. Because the training of him playing high school football helped him save his life and the men underneath in war. And it was really something.